What's going on YouTube, Ferocity? I hope you guys are doing well. We are just over 7 months into the Modern Warfare 3 life cycle. And I think now is a fair time to assess this game and compare it to the previous game. Now, we all knew from the earliest leaks that Modern Warfare 3 was going to be some sort of direct sequel to MW2. We didn't know exactly how close the two would be tied, but we knew there was going to be some aspects of the game that were very similar to MW2, which worried much of the community because there were some major complaints that this community had towards MW2, and fair and honest complaints that needed to be addressed. Complaints and criticisms that directly affected the overall gameplay of MW2 and hindered it. But right away, right out the gate, Sledgehammer Games confirmed that a lot of those missteps that MW2 took were going to be resolved in MW3. And that was honestly a really good thing. To this day, I still think one of the best decisions they made was to backtrack a lot of the changes that were made in MW2, especially the perk system, no red dots on the minimap, no permanent dead silence, and decide to go forth with what the community wanted here in MW3. And it's made it a stronger game, a better game. And because of that, it has just showcased how far behind MW2 truly was in understanding how to deliver a great game to this community. And it seemed to have set Call of Duty back. I mean, all you have to do is look at the overall original reception of MW2 and compare it to the initial adoption of MW3, and they are vastly different. MW2 had this injection of a large player base, so many new players, and MW3 was just trying to grasp at straws to get some of those players back because MW2 left such a sour taste in people's mouths because they made no improvements to the game over the course of the entire game. I mean, just the content drops that we got throughout the year were pitiful in comparison to what we've had here in MW3 only 7 months into the game's life cycle. And that's the shocking part. I think there's more content now in MW3 than there ever was in MW2. And there's been 12 months of that game. I mean, are you kidding me? But it's not just the lack of content. It's not just the bad decision making that really tanked MW2. It was also the arrogance that was being displayed consistently by Infinity Ward. Anytime something was brought up and brought to the attention of the developers, it seemed to just get brushed off. And in turn was resulted in us being a bunch of complainers, us being a bunch of whiners. And that's not how you deal with your community. You don't deal with them by ignoring them. You don't deal with them by trying to insult them. You deal with them by listening to them. And it was a major misstep for Infinity Ward to think that they're the almighty powerful development team that everyone looks up to over at Activision. Guess what? You're not. You haven't made a great Call of Duty title since Modern Warfare 3 back in 2011. That was the last time you truly made a title that resonated with a large portion of this community. I know some people are going to argue with me with Modern Warfare 2019, but I'm sorry, that game, multiplayer-wise, is still one of the worst I've ever played. Don't get me started with Infinite Warfare, and don't get me started with Call of Duty Ghosts. All of those games had their problems, had their warts, and by no means should instill any type of faith that Infinity Ward can understand how to deliver a competent multiplayer experience in their next title. I mean, just look at MW3. All of the maps that have been brought over from MW2 play so well here in MW3. It's kind of a joke, really, how much better these maps play in MW3 than they did in MW2. The movement's more improved. The changes that were fundamentally made to the core gameplay work really well. And it showcases that maybe Infinity Ward had a grasp on decent map design, contrary to what I've said before about the map design there. But they never understood how to maximize the enjoyment out of those maps. And MW3 has done a really good job of that. But it's not just the fact that MW3 has a very good multiplayer experience in comparison. The Warzone experience is far improved. I mean, they didn't have to waste half a year backtracking all the changes they originally made. For those of you that don't remember, when MW2 came out, Warzone 2 followed with it, and with Warzone 2, it was so poorly received. A lot of the changes, a lot of the new elements to the game, that they backtracked everything back, mostly to Warzone 1, and then on top of it, gained additional flack for shutting down the original Warzone map and players not being able to access the things that they purchased. Kind of shady at the end of the day. Modern Warfare 3 didn't do that. They learned from those mistakes. They decide to continue going forward with what was built at the end of the MW2 life cycle and build on that with MW3's version of Warzone. Smart decision making. It's not only that, though, it's the fact that Modern Warfare 3 also brought in Modern Warfare Zombies. And it has its problems. It has its lack of content at times. It feels neglected at times as well. But it's still a really strong additional mode that was lacking in MW2, where MW2 had Spec Ops, but it's just not the same as Zombies. And it kind of makes sense, man. Like, it's just not going to have the same punch as bringing in a Zombies game mode. And it feels as if every bad decision, every unfortunate turn that MW2 took, MW3 rectified. But it seems as if there's been a lasting stain that remains from MW2 on much of this player base. They've left a community very untrusting of the development teams, and they want to see a departure from the modern day Call of Duty. And honestly, I think that's fair. And that's going to be the lasting effects of MW2. That's going to be what people remember as we move into the next Call of Duty game, is trying to move away from all of the bad decisions that were made during the MW2 era. The truth is MW2 released with a lot of the similar mechanics of MW3, the design choices that MW3 had, the content choices they had for their seasonal launches. I think we would have had a lot more successful of a game. I think you would have retained a lot more of the player base. But unfortunately, it felt as if they were taking 2 steps backwards and no progress was ever being made. And that really sucks. So it's been a year of catch-up for Sledgehammer Games. And maybe that catch-up is a little too much for them at times. And we see that with some of the problems that the game has. And I try to not be overly negative because I'd just be beating the same drum over and over and over again. But some of these problems persist because of the fact that they had to rectify and change and correct so many of the bad decisions that MW2 made. And it's just such a shame that a game that was supposed to be an homage to the game that really brought Call of Duty into this different realm of video game history was just so disappointing for a community, because there was so much promise and there was so much belief that this was going to propel Call of Duty in such a positive manner, and it had the opposite effect. And MW2 is always going to be remembered as the game that really disappointed this fan base, really disappointed this community, and made everybody extremely distrusting of the development teams over at Activision and Activision itself. Those are the lasting effects of MW2. A game that all the promise, but none of the execution. A game that was delivered by a development team that was far too arrogant in its own past success to notice that they were letting success slip through their fingertips. And that's a really unfortunate truth that I think many have to face. This isn't a video to say if you like MW2, you're an idiot or a moron. It's not a personal attack. I just wanted to highlight the situation that Call of Duty put itself in with the disappointing reception of MW2 and the disappointing decisions that were made throughout the game's life cycle, or lack thereof. If you like the game, good for you. I'm kind of jealous. I really wish I could have liked MW2. I really wish I could have overlooked the glaring faults with that game, but I can't. And I really hope that there were some lessons learned. And I really hope that we once again continue this positive trajectory with Call of Duty as we move into the next Black Ops title and into a Black Ops 2 remaster, it seems. We could have a really good couple years of Call of Duty. But the key is to learn from the mistake that was MW2, learn from the egregious errors that were made and the amount of hubris and arrogance that was put towards their title, and make Call of Duty great again. Such a weird tagline, but I'm going to go with it. So that's it for the video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts regarding MW2, the overall reception of it, and how we look at it today. So I thank all of you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time.